What's good, KFS Nation? If you can hear my voice, that means you're tapped into another episode of Casual Friday Live on the Knicks Film School YouTube channel. I'm Jeff J. That's Shawn with a W. And you chat with a capital C-H-A-T. We're here, we're live, and we're here to talk about the New York Knicks, the week that was, and the week that is here to be. Send this link to everywhere that you talk Knicks basketball, all your friends, all the fans that you know love the Knicks conversation. Send them here so that we could have a talk on this Friday. It is the end of the month. We're already 1 month into 2025, Shawn, and time flies and it goes slow at the same damn time. How you feeling, bro? You are on mute, brother.
Oh, I knew I was on mute. I was like, I would feel better if I could find my mouse. I'm feeling good. Like you said, it's the end of the month, which means it is the end of dry January for me. But I'm feeling good. Listen, man, I got plenty of time. But I'm feeling good about this basketball team. And even though you and I have shared some not so pleasant words about this basketball team our last two appearances. I think we both always felt that this team would be fine in the long run. There are just some tweaks that needs to be made, and you know what? Some of the tweaks have been made, which has gotten us to the position that we're in now.
There it is. Everybody in the KFS chat, if you're watching live and replay game, get your comments in. Send all your questions. We will answer them here. And we're here. I'm actually hyped, Shawn. But I'm hyped because we finally get to have a talk when there's good things to talk about with the Knicks. It feels like the last couple of times we've been the harbingers of doom when it comes to this team. Or they just pissed us off because of their current form. Their previous form. But their current form right now, this team is surging. 5-game winning streak. And in the last 5 games, they're 5-0. Second best offensive rating in the league, 6th best defensive rating in the league. So top 6 in offense and defense in the league. Number 1 in net rating. And that's what happens when you're blowing out teams by like 30 back-to-back games over this 5-game stretch. There's a lot of good to talk about with this stretch. So sure, let's start off with this. Give me one of your strongest reasons why the Knicks were able to recalibrate and seems like they're starting to put it all together and go on this 5-game streak.
Honestly, I think the biggest reason why is rest. So we jumped on here on December 13th, and which was after the infamous dice roll. And we said, who does this team want to be? I came on with you on January 10th, which was after the Oklahoma City Thunder put us in the torture rack, not once, but twice. And our concern, and we had some concerns.
Yep.
But then after that game, looking at the schedule, so my last appearance was the day of the so the funny thing, my last appearance was January 10th. So that was a week after we lost to the Thunder and OKC. And we were like, okay, that game has shown us something. And then they got put in a split at home. And then we were like, oh. But interestingly enough, because they beat the Bucks, then they lost to the Pistons on that Monday night, which we all said that was the Pistons Super Bowl. And they were flexing on Twitter and yada, yada, yada. And that loss actually didn't bother me. And I looked at the schedule. I said, you know what? They have the Sixers, who stink. And there was a lot of hand wringing because we took them to overtime, which we shouldn't have, but so was life. And then they lost to the Timberwolves at home. Right. And that was Julius, took like 3 shots. And of course, he was available to shake hands and kiss babies after that game, where he was nowhere to be found after the first game. But I digress. And when there was a lot of hand wringing and whatever, and da da da. And then I looked at the schedule. And I said, wait a minute. They have 2 days off before they play the Hawks. Then they have a back-to-back. But then they have 3 days off before they play the Kings. And I looked and I said to myself, this team seems to do very well when they get time off. Because I remembered after the Hawks game, they didn't play a game until they played the Magic, I believe, on a Saturday. I have this there in front of me. Yes, they played them. The next game they played the Magic, and they beat the Magic by 9. And then they had Monday, Tuesday. They had 3 more days off, and that's when he beat the crap out of the Timberwolves. So I said, wait a minute. This team seems to do well when they get more than 2 days off, and they got a few days off. They got 2 days off against the Hawks, beat them, which is why I really didn't get all bent out of shape about the Brooklyn game, because it was a back-to-back, and we know who our head coach is.
Mm-hmm.
But then Sacramento, I had no concerns about Sacramento at all. Beating the crap out of the Grizzlies surprised me, but when this team has time to, we've seen this on multiple occasions now. When this team has time to breathe, when this team has time to rest, this team has time to practice, look at film, identify things, work things out, they'll be fine. Which is why, and I actually heard Andrew say it on the show with John and Jeremy earlier this week. Like, the first round of playoffs, they're gonna pack whoever up. Like, if I could bet right now the Knicks will win in 5 or less, I would do that right now. Because when the team is prepared and this team is rested and this team is focused, they can beat anyone.
I agree with you for sure. Let me hold on 1 second. I'm gonna log in. This is part of the that's why I know. This is part of the growing pains of technical difficulties and updating systems and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Let me check this real quick.
While you do that, I will say this. Shout out to the Minutes Police. I don't know if I'm in the Minutes Police. I am the Minutes Patrol. And I think the Minutes Patrol deserves some grace and some and maybe not an apology, but my fault. But we'll get to that.
All right. So hold on 1 second. Hold on. I'm getting a notification.
Well, while Jeff deals with that, Jeff has a lot going on.
You didn't hear that?
No, I didn't hear anything.
You didn't hear that at all?
No.
Oh, that's nuts. Damn, my comedic timing is.
Wait a minute. You mean the? No, I didn't hear anything. You
didn't hear nothing?
Well, I heard a sound, but I thought it was like I thought that might have been my phone, my computer, or something else.
It's all good. Yeah, I do think that there was merit to it. We've been talking about it for the last few weeks, that this squad did look tired at times. And even more so than just fatigue, the fact that a lot of the other top teams, really, if we're keeping it 100, every other top team is using an extended rotation. 9+ guys in their rotation that are getting at least 9 minutes a game. And the Knicks at one point were the sole team. I'm talking about of the teams that we are considering in that upper echelon top 4 teams that seemed like they were shortening their rotation. And to expand the rotation would be situational. It gives credence to the faction of the Minutes Police that say, hey, why is it that every time these guys have an extended break, they come back out and they're gangbusters? Like, why is that the case? And while I am a correlation doesn't necessarily equal causation type of person, I do think there may be factors in addition to rest. Like, they get to practice. because a lot of the time they wasn't practicing and they're a new team. So they get to work out their kinks. So if you think about it, you listen to some of the sound bites like Josh Hart and other guys who have been speaking about the anti-Tibbs narrative, like the pushing back against it. And they will say, yo, we don't even practice hard like that. We just do a lot of walkthroughs. But part of it is he doesn't practice as hard so that they can go as hard in the game. So if you think about it, a lot of those early regular season games are live practices for the Knicks, and they just practice how they want to play. So that's why they go hard when they're practicing, when they play for real. But when they get a chance to become organized, along with resting,
yes,
I think that's a perfect combination, like multiple causes for why they can come back. Because if I'm not mistaken, Shawn, that stretch after Dice Roll Gate, I feel like they had one game in 9 days or something like that.
Yes.
It was like one game in 9 days because of the way the NBA Cup was working.
Yes.
They had a few days off. They played the Magic, and then they had a few more days off, and then I can't remember the next team. But it was like one game in 9 days. Minnesota. Oh, yeah, they went to Minnesota and demolished them.
Yes, they played the Hawks on the 11th, then they played the Magic on the 15th, then they played the T-Wolves on the 19th. So they had like one game in 8 days.
And hey, like I said, I think there could be multiple reasons, but I do think you can't deny that rest was one of the factors. I do think so. And you see it in guys like OG. And think about this with OG, right? Folks have been saying how he hasn't been healthy. He only played X amount of games in a season, If you take that into consideration, think about this. He hasn't missed a game this season. He's played every game this season. And he's playing 36 plus minutes a game. He may not be used to that because he's had time off, and at Toronto, I could look it up real quick, but who knows what? I'm sure his averages weren't as extensive, his minutes averages weren't as extensive as they were for the Knicks this season. So let's see. Minutes per game.
Although he did play for Nick Nurse. And
right, who plays his guys?
And who plays his guys?
It's another guy. I feel like it was the Kings when they were facing the two teams who play their their starters the most.
Yes.
I think I saw that that stat. Where's per game on freaking Basketball Reference? What are we doing here? Yeah, I mean he played. Oh, okay, I was about to OD. In 21-22, he played 48 games, minutes per game total 1728. He's played 48 games. He's played 48 games this season, and he's already at 1761.
Hey, listen, I think the concern about OG Anunoby is not like, well, the concern is that will he break down? Because he tends to be nicked up, get injuries, what have you. And it's like, will playing these extended minutes in November, December, January will run them down. Will rear their ugly head in February. And I really didn't want this to be a minutes police discussion, so I don't want to focus on that too much. Although I will say this, and then we can move off of it. I've looked at, because I would say the OKC game was not, I wouldn't say it was the nadir of the season, but it was like alarm bells sounded in the among the fan base, right? And the minutes thing was one of them, right? So I did a compare and contrast of minutes played per game before that time and since that game. What I found for the starters, because we don't give a shit about anyone else. Before, through that OKC game, which was the 10th of January, here are the minutes for the starters: 34.4 for Cat, 37.5 for Hart, 35 for Brunson, 36.5 for OG, 38.9 for Bridges. Since that game, 35 for Cat, 37.5 for Hart, 36 for Brunson, 37.6 for OG, and 36 for Bridges. Bridges has played. Bridges is the only one that's played less. But Bridges is someone who we were concerned about that. Also, I'm doing my math right. Yeah, Harden's played the same amount of minutes. Brunson has a minute more. Bridges has a minute more. Bridges has less. OG is a minute more. When it comes to Bridges, I think there was a lot of concern of him because they said like his screen navigation wasn't working. Maybe he was tired, what have you. But at the same time, to your point, the time off is like time to not just time to rest and recover, but time to refocus, right? So why I say and someone said in the chat, dirty sounds like Ben Kim Gerb, he said there's minutes concern and there's minutes Karens. And I think there's a difference. Like I think we were minutes concerned. We are not minutes Karens because look, there are 5 Knicks who shout. I'm not gonna say shout to Stat Muse because they're probably being facetious and using it for Knicks for clicks. They posted that of the top 5 Knicks, of the top 5 guys in minutes played this season, 4 of them were Knicks. One of them is Anthony Edwards, but no one seems to give a rat's you know what to Anthony Edwards is playing. It's number 3 in minutes, and I think that just lets you know how much sometimes it's a bit overblown. So we can move off of minutes now because I would say at the end of the day, they're playing well. They had time to rest. They had time to refocus. They had time to regroup. And also, they had time to get some wins that had signature wins Knicks Twitter in absolute shambles because now they're scrambling to find a new narrative to push.
I found the minutes per game for OG. This is by 0.7 percentage, like 0.7, his most minutes played in his career. But he's playing 36.7 average, but he played 36 in 21-22. Once again, Knicks Nurse, 36, 35, 34. It's just really more so the games played. So, playing all these games, I agree with you in the sense that here was my thing. I didn't appreciate how dismissive some folks were being about the possibility that minutes could be a factor.
Yes.
And we had this conversation before. We'll wrap it up and we'll move on because I definitely want to get to the signature win brigade. We had this conversation before where last year I felt like it was a blatantly false narrative against Tom Thibodeau. That minutes thing was blatantly false, like by numbers alone. Like every time people started doing the run into the ground narrative, you bring up every average, any average, advanced or otherwise, and the Knicks were not in the top 10. Yeah, second half of the season, their players were playing more minutes because they had injuries and whatnot. But overall, when you went to total minutes, when you went to averages, it just wasn't the case. And once you get to the playoffs, fuck the minutes police. Straight up. You got to play because there is no tomorrow. Tomorrow is today. So you got to play your guys. So I don't care about that once the playoffs go about. And once again, 90% of the injuries that the Knicks suffered that season had nothing to do with minutes. Nothing to do with minutes. Or I'll say very little for the probability people who want to say, well, if Randall was sitting, although the Heat had all their starters out there, if Randall was sitting at that time when they were up 17 with like 4 or 5 minutes to go in the game, maybe he doesn't collide with Jaime Jaquez. And that's when we get into a slippery slope of what if, where it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I like to see the guys get rest. Shout out to Tommy Beer, who will consistently remind folks that the Knicks are now undefeated 5-0 when they've expanded their rotation to 9 people. So,
and I think that mattered. I think playing 7 guys. Now, granted, Deuce was hurt for one of them. And to be fair, listen, I was at the game on Wednesday. I saw Landry Shamet play 5 minutes and come out and have no points and 1 rebound. I said to the guys at the game, I was like, "That you're not seeing Landry Shamet for the rest of the night." Oh, yeah. But you know what? Those 5 minutes matter. They matter. And like playing 7.5 rotation. And so 2 things. One, I'm with you. The people who told me that it didn't matter, those people in generous, and those people can go fly a kite. Like, don't be overly dismissive because you pray at the altar of Tom Thibodeau or because you want to troll or whatever. The other thing is, um, you can't like like I was told the Knicks only have 6.5 players, and I don't think that's the case. I think they have 8, maybe 8. I think they have 8.5. Landry Shaman again, whatever. But I think Campaign as a backup point guard does his job and does what he's supposed to do. He's a backup point guard, right? I think Precious Achua comes off the bench and does what he's supposed to do. Yes, he's an undersized 5. His shooting needs to improve, although I see him taking the corner 3 more. But like he, for the most part, does what he's supposed to do. Like that game against the Kings, he helped us win that game against the Kings, right? Because shout out to Andrew who brought it up. He said, "Listen, the game told Thibodeau what to do, and he played Precious from like the third to like 4 minutes after the fourth quarter until Tom Thibodeau decided to put Cat back in the game. We're up by like 35, and which whatever. Like, because Karl-Anthony Towns isn't going to fall into the first row again on the drive. That's not going to happen. But I think we have a solid 8. If we had a solid 9, it would be great. There are some things that we can do, but I think also the fact that just like especially again, if your team doesn't, if you're not playing the guys and your team doesn't practice, when are they going to get the reps in order to improve, find a groove, find a rhythm? Like when's it going to happen? So those two things happen. The Knicks have reset. They're here. They're kicking ass. And listen, they're 1 game behind the vaunted Boston Celtics for the 2 seed. Who would have saw that come after opening night?
Casual Friday Live. Jeff J. Shaw with a WNYOU in the chat, watching live and watching on the replay, gang. We're here to talk about the Knicks and their 5-game winning streak. I don't know if they can write in cursive nowadays. I know that's like a lost art, but there was a lot of signatures this week, Shawn. You was in the building Wednesday. I was in the building on Monday against the Grizzlies. And I could tell you, man, I've been to All-Star weekend. I've seen All-Star Saturday Night Live, All-Star Saturday Night. I'm thinking of Saturday Night Live for the first time. You came on the Saturday night, the post game. That's why I will never forget. And that was something that will live in my mind in infamy. The Garden, I want to know what the atmosphere felt like for the Nuggets game. But Shawn, when I tell you, it felt like we were watching the slam dunk contest. It felt like we were watching the slam dunk contest and an open run at the same time. The way the Knicks were styling on the Grizz. They pulled out, Mikal pulled out new emotes. My man had new emote. He has a new emote every game, it feels like, but he was pulling out emotes like improvisationally emoting. Deuce was posterizing J Huff. Precious Achua was being like Mike. Like it was wild. It was wild in there. It felt like get your shit off Mondays. Like whatever you've been working on, yo, just try it. Let's see what happens. And 90% of the time, it worked. It was a festive atmosphere, and it felt like collectively the Knicks fans in the building were both elated and a little bit astounded in the fact that they realized, yo, this is our squad. Usually it's the other way around. In recent history, it's been the other way around. But our squad is putting up early 2010s Heatles, mid 2010s Golden State FU third quarters against other teams.
Yes.
And these are the teams that we heard for the whole year, Shawn. Well, when it gets to the West, when it gets to that brutal stretch, you're going to see what this team really is. All they do is beat up on bad teams. They're under 500 against teams 500 or better. Now we got to see, because apparently when you're 10, 12 games over 500, it don't matter. It doesn't matter whatsoever because of the level of competition. But yet we got to hear how the Cavs are contenders when at one point they had the easiest schedule in the league. And yeah, they beat good teams, but at one point, when all of the easy schedule talk was going on, at that point, I want to say it was like 30 something games into the season. Like, let's say even 30. They up to that point had the easiest schedule in the association. And to be fair, the Knicks had the second easiest.
Listen, 15-0 is 15-0. Like,
right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can't front on it. You can't front on it. Like, the way they won is just as important as who they beat. But I say that to say, once again, the regular season matters. You practice the way you play, and performing in the regular season does have an effect on the postseason. I don't care if you've won a bunch of championships. If you skate through the regular season, you might still be in skate mode or think all we got to do is flip a switch until the other team turns your lights off. So I appreciate the regular season. I don't care who they play. I look for the form in which they play, how they're executing plays. Are they taking care of these quote unquote inferior teams, and how they actually perform against what is considered the elite? And right now, shoot, I feel like if you're a Western Conference team, look the other way. Don't come to MSG right now, because it's looking kind of spooky the way the Knicks ran it up on the Kings, the Grizzlies, and the Nuggets. How was it inside MSG for the Nuggets game? Because I want to know if it carried over.
So the Nuggets game is interesting. By the way, the Knicks are 10-6 against the Western Conference. The big bad vaunted Western Conference of, oh my God, look at all these teams that are above 500 and play like you look at the top five of the West. There's one team that scares. There's two title contenders, if you ask me. Two out of the top five. One of them, if you ask me, is the Denver Nuggets, who we played on Wednesday. So the Nuggets game is interesting because Jokic gets his second foul with 10 minutes left in the first quarter. And Michael, excuse me, because he doesn't want to be called Mike. He wants to be called Michael. Michael Malone sits him. So I'm okay. I think then the Knicks went on a bit of a run. I think it was like 12-4, something like that. And then with about 5 minutes left, I noticed Jokic was back in the game. But I said, you know what? Jokic is not going to come. Like, Jokic is probably not going to play for the rest of the first quarter. Jokic did not check back in until about either the 8 or the 6 minute mark of the second quarter. And I actually remember looking up, and I think the feeling inside the Garden was like, how is this game still close with Jokic on the bench that long? Like, we at one point we were up like 8 points, may have been up 10, but at the end of the first quarter we were up 4. And they kept chipping away at the lead. So there was a bit of uneasiness, like, how were they able to get? I even tweeted, I said, them being able to get away with this, with Jokic on the bench, was concerning. And then the third quarter, they took a lead. I actually believe they were up 8. I should have looked this up. So there was kind of like, and then there's been the feeling of this team all year that, like, sometimes they be on bullshit. And they will let go of the rope.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt as if they were starting to let go of the rope, and it was getting really, really annoying. But they righted the ship, and then they pushed on, and then they took over, and then that was that. I'm actually trying to see if I can find the play-by-play. But then, they went up 6, they went up 8, they went up 10, they cut to 4, and then down the stretch, I will say this: the sequence when Cat was guarding, Cat had, I believe it was, who was it? Cat was guarding someone in the corner. He had
Jamal Murray.
It was Jamal Murray. That's right. And he was staying with him. He couldn't get past him, and the crowd is starting. Because listen, New York loves a good defensive possession, man. Like, they're similar to when Mikal Bridges forced a 3-second violation on Trae Young and MLK Day. Like, that really, like, at that point, the game was over. So I think leaving the Garden, there was a feeling of, like, listen, this team can play with anyone. They can team can play with anyone. This team can see anyone as long as they, I don't want to say they decide who they want to be, but if they do the thing they have to do, if they bring what is needed, they can beat anybody. Which is why, listen, the playoffs isn't every other day until like the second half of the second round. And even like the conference finals, if knock on wood, if we get that far, it's not every other day at first, So this team can show. This team shows what they can do. last thing I'll say real quick. Or actually, I'm rambling, so I'll throw it back to you.
Okay, and I sent you the play-by-play from the game if you wanted to get that exact sequence.
Yes.
Yeah, man. I'm looking at some of their stats over this 5-game stretch. I'm trying to see if there's anything that really pops out to me. They're doing this. They're ninth in true shooting percentage. I want to see what the pace is because I feel like, yeah, they're 11th in pace over this last game, these last 5 games. And this has been a fundamental, when we talk about the whys, why do we think they've been able to execute like this? They've increased their pace, I think, tremendously. Because at one point, I think overall they're amongst the bottom of the league when it comes to pace. But they've increased it. They've increased it at least 50% since this 5-game win streak. You see them actively running on the break, turning defense into offense with steals and going right back into transition. They're running their half-court offense, but whenever they have an opportunity to run, they do it. The thing is, there's some teams that running and gunning is their whole identity. And with the Knicks, it seems like they're more pick and choose about it.
Yes.
Right? They're more. Pardon?
They definitely pick their spots.
Yeah. So they show more discretion when it comes to it, but they definitely, like you said, pick their spots and go. But it just seems like they've been picking their spots. But I think a lot of it has been the fact that their defense has been forcing turnovers. Their defense have been forcing turnovers. That's why that top 6 in net rating is so important in defensive rating, because I think with a lot of what we've seen from this team after almost 50 games is their offense is elite enough to where unless you meet a team that can completely shut off their water, and even so, they're going to find a way to score. It's the defense that's going to be the determining factor on how high their ceiling can actually go. Because you play top 10 defense and you have a pretty good shot. I think that's the aim, to get into the top 10 or at least the top 12, to where you're only tenths of a tenths behind the tenth of a point. Thank you. Tenths of a point behind whoever's in 10th. Right? As long as you're hovering around there. But if you're telling me y'all are going to play top 6, top 7 defense and still be in the top 2 of offense?
Yes. We're cooking with gasoline at that point.
And this is a team that demolished the Grizzlies, that had everybody but Marcus Smart. Top 5 offense, top 5 defense. Held the top 5 offense to 106, which I think is a few points below their points per game, because I think they had the highest points per game average in the league, and I think they still do, just off points, raw points per game. They held the top. They dropped 143 on the top defense. This is something remarkable that we're witnessing right now, and it goes to show how what the peaks and valleys are of an NBA season, because you had the Celtics and the Cavs that went through a low. Everybody's like, "Oh wow, Cavs lost 2-3 in a row. Whoa, this is crazy." There's lows to the season, and that's why when you zoom out and look at this season in totality, I think you do see, and I've vacillated between contender, good team, whatever. I think they're a contender. I don't think they're one of the lead contenders.
I think so too.
I would say if we're doing tiers, I'd say they're lower tier 1, upper tier 2. And honestly, to get into that top tier, when the Celtics come back around, when the Cavs come back around, the Thunder, you're not going to play anymore this season. Although that game in Oklahoma City was very encouraging, as much as the game in MSG was discouraging. So I think, they got their work cut out for them, but I've seen the potential. Even with the Cavs game, that first Cavs game, they were up by double digits and lost that lead. And to the Cavs' credit, they started making shots and they locked down on defense and all of that. But I still think that there's enough from historical and what I've seen of the Cavs and the Knicks this season. I don't think there's that as much of a gap, but you got to prove it. And the Celtics really is the real measuring stick, because you got the doors blown off of them and had to sit on that for like 4 or 5 months. So what are you going to do next week? These are the questions that have to be answered. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they answer it.
And I think one of the reasons why they were able to answer these questions and why they answered the question against the Nuggets was the bench. Because I was like, what kind of turned the game around? But we got good minutes from our bench in that game. Deuce played well. Precious played well. Campaign played well. Our bench outscored their bench, which if our bench, which again, Landry Shamet played 4 minutes and 32 seconds. If our bench outscores your bench, you're in trouble. It's funny you bring up Boston, because so I heard Jeremy talking on the show on Monday, and he said he brought the Phil Jackson line about how if you can get to 40 wins before 20 losses, you're in a good place. So I actually looked up the teams that had 40. So basically teams who started 40-19 or better, 40 wins before 20 losses, and it's happened 184 times. 40 of those teams won the championship, and another 29 of those teams made the final. So they won their conference. So that's 69 out of 184 teams. If I do some iPhone math, that is 38% of the time. The Knicks are currently 32-16. If they're able to get to 40-19, which I do the math in my head, 40-19, if you're 32-16, that is 8-3. Yes, 8-3. 8-3 is doable. Now I will say, so that's their next 11 games, and here are the next 11 games. We have the Lakers on Saturday. We have the rest advantage. We've had 2 days off. They've had one. We know LeBron should show his ass at MSG and troll and wear Knicks towels over his head in post game to get Knicks sort of riled up. But whatever. So the next 11 games are Lakers, Rockets, at Toronto, Boston, at Indiana, Atlanta, Chicago, at Cleveland, at Boston, Philly, at Memphis. If they go 8-3 in that stretch, we are going to have a dialogue. We are going to start a dialogue if they go 8-3 in that stretch. Now they don't have to go 8-3. That's fine if they don't. Even if they go, if they go 6-5, because listen, there are really good teams there. We already lost to the Rockets already. We spoke about Boston before. We've already lost to we lost to Atlanta twice. We've lost to Indiana before. But if they are able to get to that 40-19 mark or better, then there will be uneasy conversations about where the Knicks rank in the hierarchy of the NBA.
I love that talk, uneasy conversations. Yeah, because nobody wants to have that conversation, especially with the Knicks faithful. And it's you know what? I think it's fascinating to watch how the media narrative has slowly changed and transformed around this team. Ain't too many jokes. Ain't any jokes really anymore. None.
No, they're trying to hold. Well, I saw Jimmy Butler Muse talking about the Knicks are going to complain about when they get knocked down the second round of playoffs again, they're going to blame injuries because it's Tibbs or whatever, and it's like, so that's what they've hang their hat on. But honestly, like I said, that's tired. Whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Ban Muse accounts. Abolish all Muse accounts.
Yeah.
It's very weird to be standing a player behind a anime Avi. It's very weird. And some of the muses are like, get a life, bro. Like seriously, like get a life. Get a life, or if I hope you get a social media job or something like that. If that is the ultimate goal, I won't hate on you, but honestly, get a life. If you're trying to hide your opinions behind a cartoon composite of of what's my man's name in important Tuisma
Draymond Green.
No, not Draymond Green. It's like
the dude in Portland, Tumani Kamara.
Tumani Kamara, yeah, thank you. You got a picture of Tumani Kamara. You're like, come on, man. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, abolish all music. But this is the thing. Now they got to scrape. They have to play the hits. They have to play the hits to try to get jokes off. Oh, Tibbs running into the ground. Blah blah blah. Fact of the matter is, the Knicks are a good team. The Knicks are the only team in the NBA with 2 All-Star starters voted by the fans, the media, and the players. They're what right now? How many games? 32 and 16. 16 games over 500.
Yep.
Yeah. 16 games over 500. The way folks have been speaking about this team and they've been like double-digit games over 500 for a minute. It's just ill how the expectations, and we had a feeling the expectations were going to shift once they made these moves and went all in. They were going to shift because now they're not the little engine they're Amtrak.
Yes.
They're Amtrak right now. So you ain't going to give Amtrak credit for getting you to your destination all the time. You're going to be complaining that now you got assigned seats and somebody was in my seat the whole time and now I had to move to a different seat. And I didn't know I was in the quiet car, although there's multiple sides. I told you was in the quiet car. You would have be talking, have your phone on the speaker and whatnot. But yeah, man, I like what I see upcoming in the schedule. Like even looking at the schedule right now, I saw somebody in the chat say, "I can't believe I'm saying this about." Wait, hold on. Let me pull it up. Oh, Kevin Danishevsky. I can't believe I'll say this about a LeBron team. The Lakers are a trap game. And you know what's nuts? I see where you're coming from in it, and I would say it's trap in the sense that they should beat the Lakers without AD. It's not trap in the sense that it's still LeBron at MSG.
Yes.
He can still gain certain powers from the bowels of MSG to try to put on a vintage performance. Like, he's not trying to lose. That's the thing. He's not trying to lose. If they were playing Brooklyn on a first game of back-to-back, that man wouldn't have even shown up. He would have been in the hyperbolic chamber charging up for MSG. That's how real it is. And I think where were they? Washington. So yes. They here already.
Jeff, I swore he was not going to play against Washington on Thursday night. Because I don't know if you remember last year, because first of all, we always play the Lakers around this time of the year. In fact, our man Dorian, Dorian's birthday is February 2nd. The Laker game is always on or around his birthday.
Right.
If you remember last year, the Lakers were in because we played the Laker game and MSG was February 2nd. The 31st of January, they were in Boston. The Lakers were in Boston. LeBron and AD load managed that game. And I was like, we knew why. Because LeBron, and in that game, remember, that was the 9-game winning streak. And we had 7.5 players because Julius was gone by then. OG was gone. Mitch was already gone. And that game, LeBron, down the stretch in the third and fourth quarter, was guarding Jalen Brunson like it was 2012. Because this is a guy who's used to. There's a term I want to use, but it's inappropriate, so I'm going to use a different one. This is a guy that's used to showing out at Madison Square Garden because for most of his career they were terrible. So I understand why Kevin thinks it would be a trap game, but I think Jalen and Josh remember last year, they're rested, they're healthy, and they know, like now they have played the Lakers at MSG a few times. They know what the atmosphere is like. They know what the energy is going to be like. I think they are going to roll them. So, and they have no Anthony Davis. I think they're going to put them in a split.
Yeah, I can see it happening. Bring Bronny in the first quarter if you want. Fuck around with rap if you want. Fuck around with rap if you want. Because campaign Campaign. He will immediately counter with campaign, and we will see absurdity like you've never seen before in an NBA game. And oh, sidebar, man. I hope Bronny gets to show out in the big league at some point this season. Like he's been killing it in the G League, which is a good trend.
Yes.
Like all jokes aside, it's an excellent trend that he's killing in the G League. Because once upon a time, Deuce McBride was killing in the G League and then would come up and play a few minutes and it would be so. It takes time. And I see something enough where he can be a serviceable good player, especially being from a second round pick. That is an accomplishment. So there's something there. But I don't know what JJ Redick was thinking when he brought him in the first quarter. He said he wanted to shake things up. I wouldn't do that to Bronny in the Garden. I would not do that. And I don't think JJ would strategically, mentally for him, you know, unless this is a trial by fire. Unless this is a trial by fire, then that is the best. Like, show us what you got. That's the best. Show us what you got.
I will say this. I think him choosing the Sixers was purposeful. Because against the against the Wizards, like playing the first quarter against the Wizards, like the Wizards are a joke. Like Ronnie got his first and one, like against the fun to watch the Wizards. I think on a long road trip, all right, I'm gonna try and steal some minutes. Philadelphia is not that good, but you know they got some guys, whatever. Like I said, Madison Square Garden on Saturday night, yes, there will be Laker fans there. There will be Bronny fans there. There won't be as much as there was in Washington on Thursday night, but this team, especially against a Knicks team that plays their starters the majority of the first quarter, them and the crowd will smell blood. So fuck around if you want and play Brian James in the first quarter. It might be barbecue chicken. And I'll say this. I kind of feel bad that Brian's not a victory cigar. Like I feel bad that he's in a situation where it's like
no victory cigar.
Like
bro.
he's like honestly like he probably shouldn't be in the NBA right now, especially since even though he is scoring 16 a game in the G League, he's shooting 21% from three, which is not going to cut it as a wing. But you know, kudos to him. Shout out to my man Edwin Garcia, who covers the Lakers with Silver Screen and Roll, who said that the reception that Bronny gets on the roll lets you know that the internet is not real life.
Oh yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%. We could have told you that. The internet is the epicenter of losers. Like losers congregate on the internet to hate on people whose lives they covet and who Absolutely. They want to be and who they resent because they're doing something that those people, those losers would love to be doing.
Absolutely.
And it's easier for them to think, oh, they're taking our opportunities. They're not qualified. There's got to be some other reason why they're in their position other than the fact that they have skill and they're merited and they're warranted. It should have been me. It should have been me. And when you think in that scarcity mentality, you're a loser and you're going to continue to lose. Just because you lose doesn't mean I won because you lost. Right? Just because we win doesn't mean you automatically lose. It's not binary. It's not all or nothing. There's enough for everybody. And if you got that skill, if you truly are better, go get you some podcast equipment and a camera and put yourself up to the test. Because I tell you, it is a feat of humility to put yourself in front of hundreds of thousands of people, sometimes millions of people, give your opinion, show your prowess to where it's a public performance review every time you step in front of a camera. You can stink at your job and nobody will know but your coworkers and your company. But if you mess up or fumble or do anything in this arena, everybody who also has various holes will have various opinions on what you do, right? So, yeah, man. You know, NBA Twitter is always going to get their jokes off, and just the NBA internet and all those communities. Like, it's just the nature of the beast. When you get fandom, you get fanatics. Everybody who's a fan of anything is guilty of it You can try to be as smug as you want, but there is a we can look in your group chats and find out the jokes that you get off, right? So it is what it is. But like you go, especially with the bandwagon nature of Laker Nation and how they're everywhere. He's gonna get widespread support, and he should. There's no reason to hate on that kid. There's no reason to hate on that kid whatsoever, unless he's playing against my team Saturday night at Madison Square Garden. Yes. Then it's you in the arena, you gonna feel it. Because your dad terrorized us for ages. Don't bring that man to Toronto. Don't bring Bronny to Toronto. Don't bring Bronny to Toronto. Don't bring Bronny to Indiana. Folks is going to be pissed because your father terrorized a generation of fans, of NBA fans. And, it's how it should be. But, definitely kudos to him. One thing that I see about these Knicks, Shawn, as we wrap up, their defense, they're over this 5-game stretch, they're second in the league with 11 steals. They're averaging 11 steals per game in this 5-game stretch. And one thing that I've seen about their defense that I think it's a marked difference. They're still playing drop. I think they're switching up their defense even more depending on the personnel. When you get more of the bench players, I think you see more switching. And to Brunson's credit and to Cat's credit, they are playing more one-on-one defense. One-on-one defense to where you're getting better results. Mm-hmm. You're getting more good results than bad. Like that, we've heard it, shout out to my guy XJ. He's been banging the drum about how Cat is a good perimeter, a solid, not serviceable, is a good perimeter defender. If he has to defend on the perimeter, he can do it. And I seen him get switched off on Jamal Murray, like in the open space. That's just asking him a lot. There's few big men that could do that, right? Mm-hmm. Like that can guard like that. So, Jamal gets in his bag, step back, bang, 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 hitting those fallaways. But the fallaways were still tough enough shots to where he's working a little bit. And in my opinion, for the Nuggets, when you get Jokic out of being the hub, that's a win. Mm-hmm. That's a win where he's not disrupting your defense with his X-ray vision and all of that. But that one play you were talking about, when he was guarded Murray in the quarter, and Murray pulled out every move he's ever learned in his life to get past Cat and hit the layup. Like, it was almost like, damn, like you even saw him, he was like, damn, he got me. But the fans were pleased because like Murray had to mix him. Like Murray had to work to mix Cat. Like, what are we saying here? This is the type of effort, and this is something that a lot of us have been saying when the Knicks were going through their rough patches and their ups and downs. Like, y'all do not have to scramble all the time. Let these dudes let them earn it.
Yes.
Like, these taller wings that don't really got offense like that want to try to bully Brunson like he's a weekend warrior, and they're just gonna use their I'm taller than you to beat him. Let's see, because you know what? When they do that, they're not passing to the open man and having the defense scramble around the perimeter, and then eventually it's a wide open three. That's not happening. You get Cat in one-on-one action, see what happens. And I feel like they're doing it more. And once they can establish themselves as one-on-one defenders, that's when you get the opportunistic stealing from Bridges and OG. That's when they can play more of that free safety role, and they can mix it up to disrupt the defense, disrupt the other offenses. So I think schematically that's been something that's been super impactful, and I hope they learn from what they're doing now and they keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, last 2 weeks, according to Cleveland Glass, the Knicks are 6th in defensive rating. They are 13th overall. And earlier you were talking about how if the Knicks can just keep their offense where they are and be like a top 10 defense, it's scary for the league. For me, the marker has always been Denver, because we saw a team with a offensively magnificent center who had defensive shortcomings win the championship, and they had their net rating on defense. They were 17th in the league, but they were fifth in offense.
Mm-hmm.
So if this Knicks team, which is going to remain top 2 or 3 all year in offense, if this Knicks team actually have it right in front of me, they're second in offense right now. If they can maintain second in offense and 13th in defense, things can again. We will have uncomfortable conversations. We will start a dialogue, whatever euphemism you want to use. That we can to describe the amount of shit talking that we will do will be done. But that's the blueprint. And like you said, the defense again, rest, recovery, focus, attention to detail, practice, film study, all over an 82 game season. All those things matter, and they have gotten the Knicks to where they are today, which is again the third best record in the Eastern Conference, twice as many wins as they have losses, and one game behind the stud Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference and the Atlantic Division. And by the way, I may or may not have a bet for the Knicks to win the Atlantic Division at plus 370. Let's go.
I love it. I love it. Let's get to a comment before we get out of here. BX Boy 71 says we are one good bench wing away from being a top tier contender. We just need someone who could give us a consistent 10 points a night and be an average defender. Let me keep that up for a second. Yeah, I think everybody would love that. BX Boy, unfortunately, your idea is too good because that is what's on a lot of teams' radar. You give 10 points a night and can play average to above average defense, and you are a core piece. And you could be a core piece of the championship team. Heard the noise and rumors around Chris Boucher, which continues the trend of if you bust the Knicks' ass off the bench in the regular season, you are now officially a target to join the team.
First of all, Chris Boucher is like the greatest garbage time player in the world. Like I've seen him come to MSG, they down 19, he comes in and starts lighting up. But to your point, yes, those guys, if you can play some D and score 10 points a game, like listen, Tumani Kamara is averaging 9.9 points a game, and our man Dan Meringue saying like, "Yo, to trade for him, you would need multiple premium firsts, right?" So,
come on, man! Like, what the fuck? What are we doing here, man?
That's why. Listen, no disrespect.
Danny Ainge got everybody running around like they Pac.
No disrespect to Danny. Danny does a fine job covering the Blazers. But this is why small market teams make me itch. Listen, there's a guy. Someone who could get 10 points tonight and be average defender. By average, you mean like just don't be terrible. Listen, I think that TJ Warren's going to find his way on this team at some point, and that point will be when his pro-rate salary will be low enough so that we can fit his ass under the second apron. I see that move. Was listening to Ian Begley on the pod earlier this week, and he said that, like, everyone's talking about trading Mitchell Robinson, but it's like, well, Mitchell Robinson has not played a game of basketball since May 1st. Like, who's necessarily going to trade for him? Like, a big man for foot issue. So, I don't know if the Chris Boucher, or I forget who the other guy that's in the trade rumors are, but like, what you're asking for, BX Boy, 29 other teams, well, 28 because the Wizards, they should be defunded. 28 other teams will ask for that. Shout out to you, BX Boy. There you go.
For sure. Let's get this off. Nick A. Batcher says, I think we only need Mitchell Robinson back for us to be complete as a team. I still think they need one more. I love Mitch back, but I think we still need one more. I think they can benefit from having another serviceable wing on the squad. And
yes, I think having Mitch back will definitely solve some issues. Like the success we've seen with the Precious and Cat lineups. Best believe you're going to see Mitch and Cat lineups, but if they can just get another wing that could obviously provide some scoring and also just lessen Tibbs' reliability on OG and Macau would absolutely help. But then again, as we said, those type of players, everybody wants those players. I see someone in the chat, bro, Josh Okogie, that would get him on the cheap. Someone brought Delano Banton. I will say this: I don't. I don't talk to me about beef stew anymore. Someone made a very good point on the internet on Twitter. Every time you see a highlight or a video about Isaiah Stewart on Twitter, he never has the ball in his
Yeah,
hand.
I think that was Kev on stage.
Kev on stage,
that was Kev on. Shout out to Kev on stage, yo.
He's like, he never has the ball in his hand. I was like, yo, that may not be true, but it's true enough. So
yeah, I don't want to see that guy. Like it is what it is. Like, and then also I'm wary of dudes who come to teams and they on that tough guy shit. Like you bring in a certain type of energy to the team where if everybody ain't like that, or you don't got guys like that already, it can be disruptive. It could be really disruptive. You know? So
I agree. And Beef Stew don't do that to everybody because I seen Paolo getting his grill and Beef Stew ain't want no smoke. So whatever. But yeah, we would like Mitchell Robinson back. I like that. I agree. We would all like to see Mitchell Robinson back, and it sucks that his timeline gets pushed. It was December, then it was January, then it was February. Like now, we're looking at St. Patrick's. It's gonna be St. Patrick's Day, so we'll see.
Yeah, they say that he's we heard that from Tibbs that he is doing some light contact and running and doing all of that. So it's like control contact and running. So we'll see. I hope he is able to come back, man. Shout out to Ian Begley as well when he was on with John on the pod. He had made a mention that just regular talking about Mitch and the stuff surrounding Mitch, and he said, paraphrasing, but fans could believe part of the hesitation with the news around him could be similar to the OG situation. And I forgot about this, but he's on point. Yeah. You remember with OG, he was out with the elbow and it made it seem like, it was like tendonitis or something like that. And then as soon as the trade deadline expired, you found out that he had bone spurs and was going to be out a month. And it was the most crafty, cleverest, the guile used by the front office to be able to finesse that trade deadline so that they didn't get upcharged for Alec Burks and Bogdanovich.
Dude, DJ Zulo, shout out to him. Like he was beside himself last year with like the with the OG updates or lack thereof. We're like, oh yeah, he's fine. And then I think it was Sacramento where he's like yelling in pain at his elbow, and DJ was like, "Stop lying to us." Yeah, that was an amazing finesse.
Exactly. All right, Sean, we got 3 games upcoming for the week. Lakers at home, the Rockets on Monday, and then I want to say in Toronto on Tuesday.
Yes.
And that's for this week before Friday, because after that, then it's the All-Star break. Actually, I'm lying. It's Saturday is the next game against the Celtics. So we got 3 games this week before the next casual Friday. Me and Mensa were 2-1 boys last week, and they shocked us with the 3-0. I thought one of those Memphis or Denver games was going to be given up, and they got all 3. So what do you think for this week? How do you think they're going to fare?
I'm going to say 2-1. They will beat the Lakers. Remember this. Write it down. Take a picture of it. I don't give a fuck. They will beat the Lakers. They will probably drop one. They'll. I don't know which one they'll drop against the Rockets or the Raptors. They could. I would like them to beat the Rockets because they didn't beat the Rockets. In fact, they might have got swept by the Rockets last year. Definitely remember that loss in Houston. But those back-to-backs are always tough. So I'll say 2-1.
Yeah, I'll go 2-1 as well. If you get the chance to be in the Garden on Saturday, be in the Garden because there's no better feeling than the Knicks beating the Lakers and MSG and watching all those new not from LA Laker fans have to go home with the real New Yorkers and wear all that bullshit Lakers gear and have to give a bunch of excuses on why they won. And especially if you're in online NBA fandoms, Knicks Lakers always, it doesn't matter what the records are. Knicks Lakers always has a buzz because, especially on my timeline, that's when all of them come out the woodwork to have commentary on the Knicks and their squad. So when their squad gets beat, that's when we get the long list of excuses and all of that. So it's extra satisfying to see those L's handed out to people who haven't been west of Missouri, but yet they root for the Lakers and they were born in like Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? So trust me, because I don't want to hear any more Superman origin stories about how you saw Kobe born in a major and you thought that was the reason why you had to root for a team, although you had multiple teams on your coast that you could root for, and God forbid your own hometown. But I digress. I look at the Rockets. I think the Rockets game on Monday is going to be the toughest out of the three. The Rockets haven't really been scoring as much, but they're all dogs on defense. And Şengün was out against the Grizzlies. He'll play. He'll play on Monday. If you're questionable going into MSG, you're playing. The only person I've seen in the last 5 years who's been questionable and didn't play was Dante DiVincenzo, and that was because of his toe injury that later became more serious than what it was originally thought to be. And even he was questionable because he was going to try to get on the court. So yeah, other than Knicks players, if you're questionable and you're going into the Garden as an away player, I fully expect you to play. So I'm expecting a win in Toronto. I'm expecting a win tomorrow. I'm expecting a win on Saturday. No AD. If Cat had full function of his hands, I would have said, guarantee. But yeah, I do expect a Laker. I expect to win in against the Lakers. I expect to win against the Raptors, and the Rockets. They're a tough squad, so I think it's a toss up. So that's how I'm looking at it, man. And that is Casual Friday. Shawn, you have survived another Casual Friday. Thank you, my brother. Always a pleasure for joining. Let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at ShawnW_. I'm also there on Blue Sky. Do not follow me on Instagram. And you can find me at T-Squared Social on Saturday night for our first anniversary watch party against the same Los Angeles Lakers. And again, dry January will be over, so come buy me a drink. I appreciate it.
Jeff J says all social media, and you can find me here at Knicks Film School, hosting Casual Friday with some of the best and brightest on KFS platform and elsewhere. So thank you so much for joining us. Replay gang, tap in, leave your comments. We got you. Chat gang, thank you so much for joining us. It's been another episode of Casual Friday. You already know the vibes. Like this video if you love what you're hearing. Subscribe to the channel. We got 19.2 and counting. It probably went up since the last time I checked, but a lot of y'all are finding this channel and tapping in and loving the content. So share that with your fellow Knicks fans and have them come through and watch some good content around the Knicks, man. We got a lot of knowledgeable people here who love the Knicks, who love the squad and love basketball. So you get to talk real ball with real people. And subscribe, tell a friend, share this video, share this link wherever you want to share it. And we'd love to see you do it. So until next time, that is Shawn. I am Jeff, and you've been amazing. This is Casual Friday. Enjoy your weekend and go Knicks.